Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Robin's Nest. Man, do we have some massive news. As of this morning, Christian Horner is no longer the team boss at Red Bull Racing in Formula One. Effective immediately. They've moved the team boss from Racing Bulls up to Red Bull to take his place. I have my thoughts on that, exactly what happened, why it happened. We'll get into that as well as some other things. So if you enjoy listening to me ramble about motorsports, cars, anything like that, or anything I feel like talking about, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications, the works. If you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, auto parts, anything like that, check out our eBay. The link is in the description. Also, I want to give you guys a heads up to make sure to sign up for our membership to our channel, because what we're going to start doing moving forward is any revenue that we take from this, that we make from this YouTube channel. We have a 1993 Chevrolet S10 that needs a lot of work, and what we're going to start doing is we're going to start putting any revenue that we make from this channel into that truck, and we're going to video it, and we're going to put it up on the channel for you guys to watch and kind of follow along. It needs a lot of work, and it's a lawn ornament right now, so I mean, you kill two birds with one stone and get the truck fixed up, and then you guys can follow along. You can see the fruits of your labor as well. Kind of do this thing together. And then as a member, we'll start doing some members only content. We'll start doing some giveaways. Not trying to take anything away from our regular viewers. We're going to do similar stuff with y'all. We haven't done a giveaway in a while, but we're going to get back into that. Because as you can see, as I've pointed out several times, we have a lot of stuff around here that, it's good stuff too. Let me just say that. This is not stuff that we plucked out of a garbage can somewhere. We have good stuff, so we're just going to start doing giveaways on a regular basis. But with the members, we're going to start doing members only content. We may do a crowdfunder or something like that. I don't know. Stay tuned on that front. But anyways, now that said, let's get into it. So Christian Horner is gone from Red Bull, and I think honestly it's one of two things. The hot rumor has been that Max Verstappen is leaving to go to Mercedes at the end of the year. He's kind of danced around that topic in interviews. He basically hasn't said no, but he hasn't said yes either. And so it could be a situation to where Max is already signed with Mercedes, and so because of that, now they're letting Christian go. I don't know. Or it could be that they're doing this to try to make Max happy. Maybe Max and his dad has an issue with Christian. I don't know, but I would venture to say it's one of those two scenarios. I don't think it's because of the performance of the car or anything like that. I don't think. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my personal opinion. Is I don't think that's really got much to do with it. I think it's more the Mercedes thing, and I don't know, but there's been issues with Christian. They had the issue with the employee that was accusing him of some things, I think, a year or so ago. And the rumor then was that Christian was on thin ice and they were going to let him go. They ended up not. They did an investigation into the claims, and they ended up being unfounded. So he stuck around, and so I don't know. There's also been a power vacuum essentially at Red Bull since I can't pronounce the team owner or the Red Bull founder's name, but he passed away 2 years ago now, and since then I know that from some of the things that I've read is that there was essentially a power vacuum. There were different parties within Red Bull who were vying for control of the company. Don't really know how that shook out, or if it's still, playing out. It very well could be. But it just seems from the outside looking in that there's been a level of chaos within Red Bull since that happened a couple of years ago. I could be wrong again. I don't know that for sure. That's just my opinion from the outside looking in. So it'd be interesting to see, if Max leaves Red Bull, what's going to happen with Red Bull? They've built that RB around Max. That's why you see everyone in the second car struggling. because the car is built for Max, and they can deny that all they want to. It's just a fact that it is. Okay. So if he's gone, then who's going to drive the car, and what's going to happen? They're going to have to do a complete rebuild and rethink their procedures, their construction process, their R&D, all of that, because they've painted themselves into a box, essentially. And this could be another reason why Christian's let go, is because, if we don't have Max, then the team is in all likelihood not going to be very good. Maybe mid-pack. And so if that's the case, I could very well see them having issues with Christian over that one. From a fan's perspective, I think it's ridiculous that they built their car around one driver. That driver is going to not be there at some point in time. And when that happens, you're going to be, your back's going to be up against the wall, essentially. I mean, what do you do? It's just, I don't know. It's not a good situation for anybody involved, I don't think. But we'll see what happens. Supercars tweeted, I think yesterday or the day before, they asked the fans, which race would you like to see Supercars and NASCAR have a doubleheader weekend? So like Supercars on one day, NASCAR on the other, I would imagine Saturday, and then Cup on Sunday. Which one would you like to see them do together? And my response to that is, why is Supercars dead set on being the Australian version of NASCAR? Why? And before anyone tries to argue that point with me, they just incorporated playoffs into their series this year for the first time. They didn't just randomly come up with playoffs. Okay, NASCAR outside of Formula One is what, the most popular form of motorsport out there. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. And so, obviously, they got the idea from NASCAR. And if you look at the I think they call it the finals instead of playoffs, but it's the same thing. If you look at the format, it resembles the 2004 format a lot, but it also has elements of this current playoff format in it. And so why are we trying so hard to just mimic NASCAR? I understand that, like, you want to make money and so on and so forth. I get that. But you keep losing your drivers to NASCAR. Shouldn't we be focused on making the product be the best that it can be in such a way that you don't keep losing your talent to America? Shouldn't that be like the main focus? Shane is one of the biggest name drivers that ever come through Supercars, and y'all lost him. Same thing happened with Marcus Ambrose back in the day, back in the 2000s, when he left and came to America for NASCAR. And now you have all these other guys: Will Brown, Jack Perkins, Cam Waters. No pun intended, but they're dipping their toe in the water over here because, my perspective is that because NASCAR pays more. That's the reason. And you can try to argue that, but I mean, the fact is that NASCAR just pays more than Supercars does, which is an issue. I mean, some guys that run in Supercars are, pay drivers, as in, like, they don't get paid to be there. They pay to be there. It's just not a good situation. I think it was back in the teens, I believe it was the late teens, where there was actually rumors going around that Supercars may not exist. There was I think they were up for sale. They may have been bought out. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what was going on at the time. I didn't follow it as closely at that point in that period as what I did prior or since. But I'm pretty sure that it was up for sale. And so anyways, there was the hot rumor was Supercars could be gone. And now, as part of their rebranding, rebuilding over the course of the year since that happened, evidently is to make it NASCAR of Australia. And I think it's just a terrible idea. I'm not wild about the Gen 3 car. I mean, there are good elements to it, but there's also bad elements to it. Just like with any race car. But my perspective is that the Gen 3 car is too dependent on tires. Okay, they have like low profile tires like what NASCAR has now. Even Shane, when he first started to come to America, before he did his I think his first full-time season, he was talking to, I think it was Dale Jr.'s podcast, where he was talking about one of the main reasons that he came over here was because of how bad the new car was in Supercars. You know, he said it was just too tire dependent, where you have to save, and then maybe you can go racing with like a handful of laps left. And Dale Jr. was like, well, no, you know, our car's kind of the same thing. And he's like, no. Like, they're still trying to figure everything out with the Gen 3 at that point, which they were with the Gen 7 and Cup too. But I don't know. And I don't like the fact that they'll go to one track and Chevrolet will have a massive advantage over Ford and vice versa. You know, I don't think that's fair to the teams, number one, because, you know, your manufacturer's got a leg up this particular weekend because of what? Because of the layout of the track. Your car suits the tires better, or it's an aero situation. You know, they try to tell us all the time that the aero numbers are like half of what they used to be. That's fine. It's still an issue, though. When you go to one track and one make has a leg up on the other, aero has something to do with that. I'm sorry, it just does. Okay. And anyways, it's just not. When I grew up, when I was watching Supercars, you know, it was a touring car series, and to me, I love touring cars. It's the whole reason I latched on to Supercars in the first place. I watch the British Touring Car Championship all the time and have since I was a kid. There's just something about touring car racing. It's elbows out, it's beating and banging, but 9 times out of 10, they're fair about it. You don't have guys just diving off into the corner and wiping each other out like we saw at Chicago on Sunday and Saturday. That doesn't really happen. You know, a lot of that's got to do with rules and avoidable contact rules and stuff, which, funny side note, NASCAR doesn't have any of that. Joey Logano was whining about Ross Chastain deliberately running into him at Chicago and admitting it on camera, and NASCAR not doing anything about it. Well, you know, back in the 2000s, there were aggressive driving penalties, is what they called them, but it was essentially avoidable contact. And everyone whined and complained and moaned and groaned about the fact that guys were getting penalized for running each other over. So Brian France came out and said, boys, have at it. And I will tell you this right now, it has been a you-know-what show since that decision was made. It just has been. It just has been. I mean, you know, when the only time you essentially ever get, unless you're lane regs, the only time you ever get penalized for running into somebody is right rear hooking them into the fence. Okay, but even then it depends on who you are. Because we had, you know, Chase Elliott get suspended for a week for doing that. Bubba Wallace got suspended for a week for doing that. Austin Cindric does it and no suspension. Which is, you know, the MO of NASCAR. They have a rule book, but it's, you know, it's tentative. We'll follow it when we can, when we feel like doing it. Depending on who it is, who gives us the most money, so on and so forth. And I know Chase Elliott makes them a lot of money, but honestly, I don't even know why that happened. Why he got suspended and Austin didn't. Nonsense. But I know I'm getting sidetracked. But Supercars just needs to figure out a way to keep their talent. They need to stop trying to mimic NASCAR. They need to be their own series. They need to stand on their own 2 feet. I don't foresee the playoffs going well this year, or the finals, because as soon as they rolled it out, like 90% of all the feedback that I personally saw online was all negative. Like, people are not, no one asked for that. No one did. And it's funny to me that the playoffs were incorporated in 2004 in NASCAR. That was the first year that Toyota came into NASCAR in the Truck Series. Toyota's coming into Supercars next year for the first time, and now we have playoffs. Could be coincidental, but I don't believe it is. I think Toyota probably has a lot to do with that. Speaking of NASCAR, though, I want to talk about the Cody Ware thing, because it's still a topic conversation. If you didn't watch the Chicago race, I talked about this in my last video, but if you didn't watch it, he had, I'm assuming brake failure. I think from what I read, he had a rotor fail or something like that going off into a corner, almost like a 90-degree turn, and brakes failed. He ran into the wall on the straight trying to scrub off speed, but it didn't really work, and he barreled off into the corner. And I'll put the link in the description so you can see what I'm talking about. But he barreled off into the corner and came to a sudden stop. It was bad. It was a bad crash. There's footage of it from fans' perspective in the stands. Someone was filming it, and I mean it was just a bad crash all the way around. So NASCAR comes out because they've been getting backlash because they waited forever to throw the caution until after Shane crossed the start-finish line to take the white flag. So then they threw the caution, race is over. Okay, so they've been getting negative feedback for that. And, rightfully so, because outside of all the gimmicks and overtime, which I personally hate overtime, I think it's stupid and it shouldn't exist. In motorsports, it's a ball sport thing. But nevertheless, you shouldn't have waited like a minute to throw the caution. So their official excuse was that we didn't have a good angle of that corner to know how bad the accident actually was. Okay, so let's just break that down. By that logic, okay, if you don't have a good angle of that corner, then theoretically I could go down to that corner on foot and run out onto the racetrack during a live part of the race while they're green, and you wouldn't know about it. If we're going by that logic. Of course, that logic doesn't make sense because when you watch the actual footage of the accident, there's like 4 track workers in that corner. There's one guy waving a blue flag who almost gets his arm taken off by Cody's car. Waving a blue flag. There's one guy with a headset on. You can tell after the accident happens, he starts radioing somebody, starts talking. So obviously I wouldn't be able to run out onto the racetrack because there's officials there. So, but if they saw the accident and they're on the radio, you should know exactly what's going on because they're telling you in real time what's going on. But not only that, what drives me nuts, I guess, out of all of it is if you're going by their official excuse, which again is nonsense, why are you conducting a race where you don't have eyeballs on every section of that racetrack? Why? We learned back in 2002 in the ARCA series when Eric Martin was killed at Charlotte that not having eyeballs on the racetrack, the entire racetrack, is not a good thing. And they made rules to fix that after that crash happened with Eric. So that was 20-something years ago. So you expect us to believe in 2025 that you're running a road course and there's a corner, one of the main, like this is like the straight, one of the straightaways. So it stands to reason if there's an accident going off into that corner, it could be severe because you're at top speed going into that corner. So you expect us to believe that y'all were running a race at a track like that and you didn't have eyeballs on the entire course? Baloney. It's absolute baloney. I've already made it clear. I think the reason that they waited to throw the yellow was because they had the red flag early in the race that already took up a bunch of time. They had weather rolling in, and they had a time window with the city in which they had to get the race in. And so rather than throwing the caution, setting up for overtime, but then rain coming in and all that kind of nonsense, they just went ahead and ended the race right then. That's what I personally think. Could be wrong, but that's what I think happened. It's just the way that they handled it is just nonsense. And then their excuse is the dumbest thing. I've been watching racing I'm 36. I've been watching racing for at least 30 years, that I can remember. I watched it before that too, but I was a kid, so I don't remember. But I've been watching it for at least 30 years. I've never heard an excuse that stupid. And I hate to say, I'm not calling anybody stupid. I just think that, okay, maybe I am. It's one of two scenarios. Either these are the dumbest human beings that's ever walked planet Earth, or they're just really bad at lying. It's one of those two. It cannot be anything else. It just can't be. You know, I don't know what they were thinking, but this is, again, if you've watched NASCAR for any period of time, especially under this current leadership, this is their MO. You know, they'll make stupid decisions, and then their excuse that they give to the public makes absolutely no sense. But then they know everyone will forget about it by the time the next race rolls around, and so it won't even be a topic of conversation anymore. The Parker Kligerman deal at Charlotte last year is a prime example of that, where Parker just about had the race won, and they threw the caution for a wrecked race car. He was like a foot away from taking the white flag, and they threw the caution just so they could get a restart, a cute restart. It's you know, it's nonsense is what it is. But I could go on a soapbox about that for days. I don't know what the current leadership's doing. If they, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say something that I shouldn't say. Let's put it that way. But anyways, Christian Horner's gone. That's massive, man. That's huge. He's been with that team since 2005, since they started. They bought the Jaguar team in 2004 and then flipped it over to Red Bull starting in 2005, and Christian's been with them ever since, and now he's gone. I think it's one of, if not the longest tenure as a team boss in Formula One. If it's not the longest, it's certainly one of the longest. So it'd be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But like I said, if you enjoy listening to me ramble about motorsports, cars, anything like that, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications. Like I said in the opening, we're going to, you know, with memberships, anyone who subscribes to the channel or gets a membership through the channel, we're going to start doing exclusive content for those members, and we'll start doing giveaways. But also with our regular viewers, we're going to start doing giveaways as well. As far as the membership and any kind of revenue that we make from this channel moving forward, we're going to start doing community projects like the truck. We're going to get you guys included on it, so you can see what your support for the channel is actually doing. So it'd be be greatly appreciated, obviously, moving forward. And we may do, like I said earlier, too, a crowdfunder. I don't know yet. We'll see. I'm not crazy about crowdfunders, you know, but we'll see. We'll see moving forward. But for sure, though, with the memberships, we're going to start rewarding our members with exclusive footage and giveaways. And again, our regular viewers, same thing. You guys are going to get. We used to do we've done like 2 or 3, and it's been a while since I've done one, so I need to get back in the swing of that. But if you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, auto parts, anything like that, make sure to check out our eBay. The link is in the description. And we've got a sale going on right now. I think it's like 18%. I bumped it up. It was 15%. Now it's 18%. So check that out. If you see something that you're interested in, just shoot me an offer. I'm not going to say no. So thank you guys for watching. It means a lot. Greatly appreciated. Till next time. Peace.